Once upon a time, in a lush green jungle, deep in the heart of the wilderness, there existed a secret village inhabited by miniature people. These miniatures were a peaceful community who lived in harmony with nature. Their houses were crafted from colorful mushrooms that dotted the forest floor, each one a unique shade of red, blue, or purple. The miniatures, though small, were known for their vibrant spirit and their deep connection with the wild animals around them. One of their most cherished friends was an enormous elephant. He was known as the guardian of the forest, and his wisdom and strength were revered by both the miniatures and the other animals. Despite his massive size, the elephant was gentle and kind, often helping the miniatures with their tasks. For instance, when the miniatures needed water from the nearby lake, the elephant would use his tusks to dig up the earth, creating natural wells for them. Similarly, when they needed fruits from tall trees, he would stand beneath the tree and raise his back so that the miniatures could climb up his body and pluck the fruits from the branches. Another creature that played an important role in the miniatures' lives was a mother deer with her fawn. They lived in a clearing near the village and were often seen grazing in the meadows. The miniatures loved the deer, and the feeling was mutual. The miniatures admired the deer for their grace and elegance, and the deer looked up to the miniatures for their ingenuity and resourcefulness. The bond between the two species was unbreakable. However, there was also a fearsome predator that lurked in the shadows of the forest, a large black panther whose mere presence sent shivers down the spines of the miniatures. The panther was solitary and elusive, and the miniatures knew little about him, except for his menacing growl and his piercing yellow eyes. Despite their fear, the miniatures respected the panther for his power and skill, and they tried to avoid him whenever they could. One day, a terrible storm struck the jungle. It was the worst storm the miniatures had ever seen, and the wind and rains threatened to destroy their mushroom houses. The miniatures were terrified, and they didn't know what to do. Just when it seemed that all hope was lost, the elephant arrived. He stood in the middle of the clearing, facing the wind, and his massive body shielded the miniatures from the worst of the storm. The deer also came to help, and they stood side by side with the elephant, protecting the miniatures. Even the panther joined them, and together they managed to protect the miniatures and their homes. After the storm, the miniatures came out of their houses and saw the destruction that the storm had caused. But they were alive, and that was all that mattered. They thanked the elephant, the deer, and even the panther for saving their lives. And from that day on, the panther became a part of their community, and he was no longer the feared predator, but a respected member of the miniature village. The miniature village remained hidden from the outside world, and the miniatures continued to live in harmony with the animals. The elephant, the deer, and the panther remained their close friends, and together they protected the miniatures and their way of life. And so the legend of the miniatures and their jungle giants was passed down from one generation to the next, reminding them of the importance of friendship, courage, and respect for all living beings.